Today on Tactical Tuesday, John and I are going to be looking at a few hands where you flop sets out of the big blind. Happy day. However, the first hand that we're going to cover is going to be when to bluff catch when you flop a set out of the big blind. And the second hand is going to be maximizing value. I don't know exactly what's going to lead to us bluff catching after flopping a set, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that it's going to be a pesky 4 straight, 4 flush run out, something that makes a set not so good. And as always, this is the host of Tactical Tuesday, Coach Brad Wilson, along with my co-host, Mr. Jon Chai. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. I'm gonna be the one bluff catching with the set, so not great. Things could be better.
Yeah.
Interestingly, there actually is no crazy run out, 4 straight 4 flush run out, and we're still bluff catching, which is, I don't even know if I would believe that if someone told me that was possible, but I'm here to show you that it is.
Okay. Well, let's dive into hand number one. I think I'm intrigued. I want to see what goes on to make you be so scared with your set. You want to break down the action?
Sure. So we're playing fast fold 2-5. So we don't have any reads on our opponents. Action folds around to the button. Opens to 2.5 big blinds, starting with roughly 200 big blind stack. So everything so far points to reg. Folds to us in the big blind with pocket fives. Easy defend. We start out with about 150 bigs. And as promised, we flop a set on ace king 5 two-tone. Feeling okay so far, feeling pretty good. I mean, not like we have a complete like hammer lock on this hand, but set's a set.
A set is a set. I mean, 150 bigs, like, yeah, I imagine you're going to check because that's the thing to do on ace king 5 two-tone. You start out by checking. Would not be surprised to face an overbet here on ace king 5 two-tone from the in position player. So let's see what they do. They do not overbet. They underbet. They go a third. And interestingly, I think that no, I still think it's probably a bigger bet board, ace king 5 two-tone. Third is interesting, pretty unexpected actually.
Yeah, a little surprised to see a third on this board as well. Think maybe what that starts pointing towards is that this is more likely to be maybe a reg on the weaker side that is also just very likely over c-betting this flop, considering that it, on the surface it looks like they're betting their entire range.
Hard to know. Like, still, these are things that, like, kind of assumptions that I think we make very often, where it's like, oh, they use a small size, so they're probably betting their entire range. And there's really no way to know that. The only thing that we actually know is that they bet a small size for some reason that is currently unknown. And again, like, we covered a hand like this a while back where villain uses like a small size, but it was more in the like trapping nature. So yeah, I don't really know exactly what to make of it, other than, you get to raise, you get to check raise your set and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Hopefully we're not, it's not one of those trapping nature small bets.
Yeah. So they bet 8 into 27. You check raise to 40. And villain bet 3 bets. The flop to 91. So like a click bet 3 bet.
Now I'm worried that the small bet was of a trapping nature a little bit more than I was 2 seconds ago. This is actually honestly the main decision point, I think, in this hand, and the spot that I had the most questions about. Man, okay, sucks to get clicked in a spot where we never have top set or middle set, and they do. Wasn't sure if this is a situation where I should just be happy just getting all the money in and, hopefully counting on them to obviously have combos of like ace king and ace 5 that, that might call it off. They might have, combo draws and queen jack, queen 10 of hearts, jack 10 of hearts, those sorts of hands. Maybe even like king X of hearts. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing. finding some way to like overrealize and check back the turn. Basically, like it felt if their range here is something like sets, two pairs, and then combo draws, it felt really gross to like let those combo draws just over realize, I guess, by calling here. I don't even know if that they're over realizing because they would just call it off if I jam. Basically, didn't know what to do here. Facing
Combo
the
draw is gonna realize it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're gonna see
Yeah.
they're gonna see it, right? Like you jam, they're gonna call, they're gonna realize like it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bet 3-bet here is kind of weird. Their sizing is also kind of weird. You would like I would expect if they have like a set of aces to go on the larger side facing the check raise, considering you are going to have a lot of equity driven check raises in your range that can like pretty easily call the click. So like, again, like we have kind of two weird sizing choices from villain. We have the small bet and then we have like the small click. I'm not really as afraid of this small click as you are. I would expect to see maybe some like hands that have decent blocker properties, like block of 5, for instance, maybe like 5, 6 of spades. So like block the bottom set, which is your highest equity check raise, as well as ace 5 suited. I'm gonna heavily discount like kings and aces from their bet 3-bet range because of their sizing here. I think their size here, just both data points as it relates to size, don't make sense for aces and kings. Really.
What about are you just eliminating kind of like all value from this size? Like, would you also eliminate hands like ace king and ace 5 and king 5? Or is there something specific special about aces and kings?
Maybe not ace king, because I don't think like obviously like aces and kings, they can play for all the money, right? Like they don't really, they're happy playing for all the money. I guess like ace king becomes a little bit dicier, just like bet 3-betting and then calling off a rip when you don't 3-bet pre-flop, because that's going to eliminate your like queen jacks and jack tens of hearts at some frequency. You'll have like you'll show up with queen 10 of hearts, but that's not as good. I mean, you'll show up with queen 10 of hearts. You're probably not going to show up with king x of hearts. You're going to show up with ace 5 that they dominate. And that's really the only like made hand they dominate. I guess king 5 as well. But then they lose to bottom set, which is going to be a prominent value hand in your check raise range. It's a hand that doesn't 3-bet pre-flop, and you have it in full and you're willing to stack off, which is kind of why like ace king and kings are like great. Like we get to like stack off here and like stack bottom set every time. But when they have ace king, like now they're gonna end up running into 5s a lot, which is quite bad for ace king. So like I would eliminate like all the value from the range. I think they probably maintain ace king, probably lose aces and kings, or aces or kings, and then may have some like some of those combo draws in their range too, like the queen jacks, the queen tens. I think those are fine. And then like their lower equity hands, I expect to be like blocking bottom set somehow. With a backdoor.
I guess another combo draw they could have in their range is sort of the bottom end combo draw, the 3-4s, maybe deuce 4, and
that's true. I mean, we could too, right? Like we have
yeah, that's the combo draw that we have. Yeah,
we have those combo draws too. So yeah, it's just a weird sizing, because like very odd sizing selection by villain. So the question is, do you call or do you bet, or do you just like rip? I guess you did mention that we have combo draws in our range. I think we can probably get called by ace king. We can probably get called by ace 5. I'm not sure they have a bunch of hands that like don't call 4-bet on the flop. Besides maybe they're like bottom pair with backdoor blocker type hand. Or maybe, if they have like 4-3 of spades or something like that, I guess that could be like a reasonable bet 3-bet hand, or queen jack of spades or queen 10 of spades, something like that. The question is like how often those hands like barrel off, and how often do they just like kind of over realize by checking behind. I don't know the answer. I suspect that just putting more money into the pot now is going to be the way to go, especially when you have like perceived bluffs in your range. it's questionable as to whether or not those gut shots with backdoor flush draws are going to put a lot more money in the pot downstream. So yeah, I think you just put the money in right now and kind of bank on there being some removal to aces and kings, and they're just not. It's way easier for them to bet 3-bet a range that has no bluffs than a range that has too many bluffs. So I would also kind of bank on that.
Yeah. So eliminate a lot of the top end of their range, the aces and the kings that we would normally be concerned about when we have bottom set because of their clicking size. And then also just kind of realize that they are more likely to be under bluffing when they bet 3-bet the flop than they are to be over bluffing. And when you kind of put those two things together,
It's
it
like,
makes a lot of sense just to get the money in now versus a range that we're likely ahead of and in a spot where they probably aren't bluffing very frequently, which means that there's less value in like kind of just check calling here and hoping they put all the money in with queen jack or 6-7 of spades or 7-5 of spades or whatever they have.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay.
And I don't think like,
I did not.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I didn't like a big. I'm just starting off the analysis. I did not discount aces and kings due to the size. I actually kind of peed my pants a little bit.
Well, I don't think like pissing your pants is a tangible data point that should drive your decision making here on the flop. If they have a set of aces or kings, you're getting stacked pretty much every time, no matter what. Like it's going to be just really difficult for you to not get stacked. You need like kind of a miracle, like, and your quote unquote miracle is actually like cards that significantly hurt you, like a heart.
Right.
So yeah, I'm guessing that's going to lead you to just calling this flop bet 3-bet.
I just called. Yep.
Yeah.
And planned on.
Yeah, it turns a jack. There's 210 in the pot. You check. You've got 600 behind. Dylan bets pot. Yeah, I mean, but there's not really much of a decision.
Kind of locked into my fate.
Yeah, I mean, like I think you should jam the turn. Again, like I don't know if you are going to jam the turn, but you don't.
Yeah, I ended up just calling down. I guess yeah, I see like the jam turn argument for sure. I think I was just I think like for the rest of the hand after I got bet 3-bet on the flop, I was just way too tentative and like passive. This turn call included, but yeah, there's just going to be like infinite rivers where like one of the disasters would be like a river where it goes check check because of the 4-liner or 3 flush and we don't get to stack a hand like ace king or for some reason ace 5 and king 5 decides to pick the size on the turn and bet 3-bet the flop. Like not stacking those hands would be terrible. Also, we would likely just have to fold if we did get jammed on one of those terrible rivers.
Yeah, you're basically carving out a path where where like it, I guess there is a world where the queen or the 10 can make it to where like you don't get stacked by aces and kings. So yeah, most of this hinges on aces and kings being in their range from your perspective, right? If what I'm saying is true and we can remove most of their aces and kings from their range, then jamming the turn is going to go significantly up in value. It feels because the downside is like a 4 straight or 3 flush where you don't stack ace king. But if they maintain aces and kings, then the 4 straight and the 3 flush can save you from getting stacked when they do have aces and kings. And so like that's really where most of this hand hinges on whether or not villain has like top set and second set in their range. So there we go. And it's
at least my decision making is consistent from flop to turn, right? I was like, oh, I think they have top set and second set a bunch in their range, so I'm just going to call the flop.
Yeah.
And now I'm just going to hope that I get to check fold the river or the river goes check check.
Yeah. So the river's an 8 of clubs, and you don't get your wish of it going check check. Although I don't know that you really want that wish.
No, not on this.
Yeah, don't think you want it to go check check. They jam. You got 400 left, and at this like there's really nothing you can do. You're just locked into calling. So I assume that you call.
Yeah, just hope they have ace king like they do, or maybe some other 2-pair combo.
I guess they could have the aforementioned like 4-3 of hearts, maybe deuce 4 of hearts, something like that. That's kind of another interesting like problem with just calling the turn is like you make it to where like their steel wheel draws just play pretty well on the river, just like I jam when I hit, I check when I miss.
Yeah.
That's pretty big downside to check calling the turn. But here we are, and they have ace king, so you win a gigantic pot, I guess, relatively speaking. What is $1,400? $1,400 pot. I don't know how many big blinds it is. It's close to 300 big blinds, I guess. So, well done.
Bet the flop.
Thought you said that
the sizing more.
Thought you said that that this was bluff catching. This not value maxing. I guess we'll see what happens in the value maxing after the break.
As you can probably tell from the way that I played my hand, I was not in like a value maxing mindset throughout the hand. I was in like a, oh my God, I got bet 3-bet on the flop mindset.
Key takeaway.
Yeah, I think
value maxing is a mindset. Even though you did max value.
I didn't know I didn't know that I wanted to, I guess, until I saw his hand on the river. But yeah, I think for me, like the big takeaways is just like reading into the flop bet 3-bet sizing, and then kind of just staying like clear headed on the turn and seeing the jam instead of still being like shell shocked from the previous street.
Yeah. Good stuff. Maxing value after flopping a set, coming right at you. Stick around.
The CPG Wolves, Josiah.
The fact of the matter is I just earn more money playing poker now than I did before becoming a wolf.
Elijah.
There's a lot that can happen in life and in poker life, and Brad has never given up on me.
Jeremiah.
My game has improved drastically. I'm not even the same player that I was then. So yeah, transformative for sure.
Jack.
I think if I'd have to describe my Wolves experience in one word, it would just be growth.
Bobby.
Everyone's pretty high on how great the coaching is and the sense of community, but I think the retreats are one of the things that I really enjoy the most.
Rusty.
I'm a much better poker player. I'm a much better person. I'm in shape. I feel good. Being a part of this community, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Go to wolftryouts.com. The decision to enter a hand is fundamental to poker strategy. Too tight, and they know what you have. Too loose, and you're easy to run over. PREFLOP Bootcamp from Chasing Poker Greatness is a comprehensive guide to locking down your pre-flop game and creating true range advantage. 8 days of guided training, over 60 optimal ranges, and access to a dedicated community of players that will push your pre-flop game from a place of weakness to your greatest strength. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com/bootcamp. Available now.
All right, welcome back. John, about to flop another set. Going to try to maximize value. He's got 2 6s, which means it's going to get fairly demonic here in the back half of Tactical Tuesday. So if you don't like dealing in demonic things, I think now's the time to switch channels. John, you want to break down the action here?
Yep, same game. Fast fold 500. Get a 3x open from the button this time, starting off with a 100 big blind stack. We obviously call 6s in the big blind and get the 7-6-3 monotone board.
Boom. Triple 6s. Don't know if this is the way that you drew it up on 3 straight, 3 flush flop, but now it's funny that this is the one that's like value maxing and the other one is bluff catching. Help me make sense of it, listener. Help me make sense of it. So here on the flop, already have a decision point on kind of mono and three low board. You can certainly have a lead here. You have a hand that probably wants to lead here. I would just lead here. this is my case. I would just basically bet a third and leave it at that.
Yeah, I start out with check like I always do in these spots where you think about donking, and I think about it but never actually do it.
Fair. Villain bets big.
Whoa. Okay, so this is again the first kind of decision point for me on the flop. Did not expect the size. Most of the time on monotone boards, I expect a bunch of checking and a bunch of small betting if I do see a C bet. Very, very rare that I see a C bet this size on a monotone board. I don't know how would you kind of read into this? I guess it seems like it's off the bat, we can probably start making a few assumptions about this player. They 3x the button.
Yeah.
Then use this really big size in a situation where you rarely see good steady players use this size. So
right.
Probably on the fishy side.
Probably. I think that's the first place that I would kind of land. And, the problem I think is with kind of auto tagging villain as, the fish, the wreck, the white belt profile here is that if you're wrong, it can get kind of bad, like downstream, right? Because like here we're at a decision point where like my intuition tells me to call, but against like a white belt, an unstudied player, I would probably raise, thinking that they can like overvalue some of their like overpairs without a spade type hands, and playing turns can get like really dicey, especially on like 4 straight or a 4 flush turn. So you're kind of like hoping that the turn doesn't scare them from placing another bet, whereas they probably will call a check raise on the flop. But if you check raise a reg here who just happened to use a big size, their range using the big size, I feel, is going to be substantially different than the rec, and that can lead to like some really big downstream problems. So like, yeah, it's very interesting situation here and very interesting dynamic, not knowing the profile of the opponent that you're playing against for sure. My intuition wants to call, but I could also like raising would also make sense to me too.
Versus a reg C bet on this board, even if they size down to a third, I likely think I would be following your intuition and just be calling middle set. Definitely versus the larger size. I had pretty much the exact same thought process that you had, where I thought like, okay, this seems like probably a more white belt-ish style player on the button. They're using this big size. They probably have lots of overpairs, some with a spade, some with not, that uses this size. Maybe they just have like some nut flush draws. Maybe they, I don't know, start overvaluing some other hands in a way that like a stronger reg might not. Maybe they're more happy about getting 100 big blinds in on this flop than they should be with, let's say, like hands with like 9s and 10s with a spade or something like that. And yeah, I kind of really read into the size and decided to kind of leverage that as much as I could and check raise here in a spot where versus a stronger reg, I
mean, is it even
would
good?
not have a check raise range.
I find it hard against either profile to feel good about just getting the money in on the flop. Like, just even against like a white belt, it's like, oh great, like they have like 11 outs with aces with a spade, woohoo! Like it's not.
Yeah, I guess
like
I was also hopeful that this is the type of player that might just stick it in with red aces on, just see like overpair, whatever. Okay, I'm just putting it in and before any really terrible cards come on the turn or the river that downgrade the aces even more than they are now.
Yeah, that's very, very hopeful of you, John. You're a hopeful guy. So you check raise to 79. Villain calls. So no bet, 3 bet. Probably okay. Wow, what a turn. Tray of clubs on the turn. So board pairs, and now you got everything you want in life. So
it's too good. It almost feels like I could do anything here on the turn. Feels like checking is on the table. Betting is definitely on the table with the hand.
I think checking would be catastrophic.
Yeah, I don't check.
Checking would be atrocious. Checking is not on the table. Like when villain can just like have ace king ace queen with a spade and just like check behind like that. I think checking, like essentially they don't have hands that are going to fold to a bet, or they have very, very few hands that are, so like checking with a boat would be atrocious. So yeah, we can take that off the table. I believe we're not having checking for dinner.
Okay.
And
I don't check, but I think they're.
no, I
I'm
think
not
check.
as strongly against it as Brad is.
Yeah, I think checking is terrible. You could bet half too. I think half would be my size and not a third. Again,
No.
I don't think they have like extra hand. I don't think like any hand that like calls a third is going to fold to half. So like, again, I think you're just costing yourself money by not going bigger here on the turn.
Yeah, could definitely size up. Just continue targeting pocket pairs with a spade plus high one spade hands like the.
What else do
ace
they
of spades,
have?
king of spades, X.
You check raise a flop pretty big.
I don't know. This guy bet big on the flop. If he showed up here with like 8-9, would I be surprised? Not completely, or like 10-8, like who knows, 8-5.
Okay, that's exceptionally greedy.
We're already in crazy world with the 2/3 or 3/4, whatever you decide to use on the flop.
I like how on the flop when they use the big size, you read a lot into it, and then like on the turn you forget everything that you read into it, and now they can all of a sudden have like 8-9 and 8-10, like that. Those hands were like not on the table, and like check calling the flop was an option, but now that you check raise and made a boat, it's like, oh no, wait, no, they can have other hands here. Like let's be hopeful that they have like 8-9 or 8-10, which are like hands that would be okay. Like you check calling the flop against too.
Not if they call a check raise.
Okay. All right. Whatever. You bet a third. I don't even know. Like you bet a third because your hand got too good and you didn't know what to do.
I just want to keep their range as wide as possible. Going to the river would really like them to not fold any of the hands that are drawing dead.
We're gonna show up to the river and they're gonna have 8-10 and it's gonna be
no. They don't have. I'll
super.
save you they don't have 8-9 or 8-10.
River's a king of diamonds. They've got 338. Wouldn't it be nice if they had 300 and there was 400 in the pot here on this king of diamonds river? I think it would be nice. But you jam. Oh, you check. Wow. I don't even know what's going on now. Give me the rationale.
What range are you targeting with a jam?
Queens, jacks, 10s, 9s with a spade. All the hands that we set on the flop would bet call with a spade, and they're most likely candidates. So 8s through queens, jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, 15 combos or 30 combos of overpairs that would have played exactly like this would be my target.
Yeah, I was worried that on the king of diamonds, I didn't know how best, like if that should change the range that I'm targeting on the river or change my strategy. Like I would be really happy about targeting over pairs and be really excited on, I don't know, an undercard river. I was worried about like
what undercard?
Worried that,
What undercard?
I don't know, like a
4, a 5,
or a board pairing river or something like that.
A deuce is the only one that doesn't make a 4 straight. So like,
I mean, okay, so like
you're really
an
hoping for a deuce.
an underpair to a lot of their overpairs, I guess. So maybe not an underpair to the board, but an underpair to queens, jacks, 10s, that sort of region. Was worried that like here, I didn't know if it was starting to think about like, okay, is it better for them letting them like either value own themselves with hands that are definitely going to call the jam and bluff whatever hands they have left to bluff and potentially sacrifice some value from like the queens, jacks, 10s, 9s that I'm not even sure are going to call a jam on this river.
Okay. All right. Well, you check and let's see what happens. I'm guessing they jam. And hopefully they'll have ace queen with the ace of spades or ace 5 with the ace of spades.
I don't think they even needed that much.
Huh?
Yeah, I think it was like the queen of spades or something like that. But yeah, they do find a bluff jam on the river.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it was ace of spades.
Ace of spades, queen of hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess checking the river did work out versus this hand, the ace of spades, which is going to be a part of their range, right? Like busted nut flush draw, ace, jack, ace, queen, spade, or ace spade. type hands. So you did win the max, I believe, versus this
Sounds
hand.
like you're still. So yeah, sounds like you're very much still in the jam the river camp.
I am, and the bet bigger on the turn camp. I think.
Yeah.
Out of all the things that happen in this hand, I think this one is the one that I'm most against. Is this turn?
They just don't have any hands once they big bet the flop and call a check raise. They just don't have any hands that are going to fold facing half, or have very few hands that are going to fold facing half on the turn. So size up, max out versus whatever hands they have on the turn. And if they do have a hand like eights, nines, tens, jacks, queens, it's really important to get like an extra, I don't know, 6 big blinds here, 6, 7 big blinds here. When you do get rivers like the king of diamonds,
7 or 8 big blinds.
Yeah. And it's like, if I'm worried about like not being able to target those hands for value on, overcard rivers like the king, then it's really important to get that value here on the turn before.
I mean, you just sacrifice
like that happens.
You sacrifice value versus like the majority of their range to target what is almost certainly a very, very small portion of their range. Like
I guess, yeah. I mean, I just wasn't as confident as you are that I could target that range for value on the river anymore.
No, I mean on the turn. Like,
okay, yeah.
Because on the turn, you said like you're targeting like 8-10 or 8-9. It's like, well, that's like a very small portion of their range compared to all the hands that we'll just call half pot. So like you're like the small bet, I think is the biggest. That's the thing that I have the biggest bone to pick is this small bet on the turn. Then on the river, I mean, your rationale makes sense. They do have like busted nut flush draws. The king is a tough one to get paid when they have like queen checks, tens, nines. So yeah, I can see the check now in hindsight. So well done. You did it.
Got the ace queen to bluff it off.
Got the ace queen to bluff it off. We have a bonus for you, or you have a bonus for them, right? Is this
Yeah, there's a bonus hand at the end. There's this third hand for all the loyal listeners who have stuck around. I'm gonna get it in pre-flop with 7 high, and I don't think you're gonna have a heart attack.
Okay, well, we'll see. So we have a limp from the cutoff. You over limp from the button. This is already getting weird with 6-7 suited. Like you could clear, like you should ISO this. I don't know. Yeah, I'm already like considering what's going on here.
A reasonable overlimping range is like small pocket pairs and small suited connectors that you're small to medium suited connectors, I guess, that you're
the small pocket pairs. I can get on board with these like small suited connectors. I think there's just more value in ISOing the cutoff limp than
getting heads up versus the cutoff.
Yeah, for sure. The small blind completes. The big blind makes it 25, which is they're assuming your role here. Now the cutoff calls. You call. The small blind makes it 150, so they overlimp.
Makes it 30 big blinds.
Overlimp back raised. Okay. Big blind folds. Cutoff folds, and you're just gonna rip it. What on earth am I watching right now? This is so bizarre. Yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine I can't even imagine what hand they have. So it's like unless they're like colluding or something, right? Like that would be the obvious the obvious thing.
Even if they were colluding, it's like what like how do you have a good why would you collude in this way? Like,
well, that's pretty obvious, right? You just limp aces knowing the big blind's going to raise every time and knowing these two guys are going to call, and then you just back raise. Like I think this is the spot where you would collude with a strong hand if one were in the colluding business. Like
I guess that's
you never have any danger of the big blind checking, so you could just limp all your best hands. The big blind, yeah.
So
you better hope they're not colluding, because things are going to end poorly if they are. You jam what is almost certainly like pocket fives or pocket fours. They call.
They tank all the way down and then call, flick it in at the last second. Tanking all the way down is only 10 seconds or something like that in this format, so it wasn't like a long tank.
So so you get an improve with the 6-7 of clubs. I don't even know.
Wait, okay, so assuming that you didn't ISO, I know that you said you would have just ISO the cutoff with 7-6 of clubs. Let's just talking about ripping it pre-flop first. Are you just folding facing the 30 big blind? Weird squeeze here?
I have no idea. I don't even want to entertain it, because like it's not a situation that I would like ever find myself in. So like, you know, at least with like a small pocket pair, you have like decent equity. Like here, you could be like accidentally dominated by like ace-7 or something. Like it's.
Well, I thought those hands might fold.
Yeah, I don't know that they do. Like I don't know that like any hand that they choose. I mean, because you're it looks like you have pocket fives here. Like I think like they would just range you as pocket fives and be like, okay, well, now there's, you know, 225 in the pot. Yeah, they need like 36% equity to call. And like every hand that they do this with has 36% equity. So like I think that like you're just getting called.
Oh, wait, how do you know that every hand they do this with has 36% equity? I think that's a huge assumption. You just think that like every hand they decide to 30 big blind squeeze it here with has 2 overs to pocket fives and pocket sixes, and
probably. I mean,
really?
I
It
guess
doesn't
they
have
have
like king deuce offsuit and ace deuce suited and like just 3-4. Like he completed facing limp from the small blind.
I don't know, John. I have no idea. Like I think like, you know, the problem with like ace deuce suited is it ISOs from the small blind versus 2 limps very, very often. It also is like a good multi-way hand to like complete with. So like, I think that that type of hand like probably just isn't in their range, and it's going to be more like queen jack off or ace 9 off or something, ace 10 off, something around those lines. Maybe like maybe something like 8-9 suited, or like a bigger 7-8 suited, 9-10 suited, something like that decided to overlimp and then back raise. I mean, you overlimped with a suited connector, so like what they could also overlimp with a suited connector. I guess they could, yeah. And those are the ones that are like most likely to call versus small pocket pairs. 5-6 suited, less likely to call because you could just be jamming 5s or 6s yourself. So yeah, I'm not loving it, but it's not my life. You do flop a flush.
I just saw the 30 big. I saw the 30 big blind squeeze. I was like, no way, man. I can't. I'm not letting this happen.
Yes, because you're not
put my foot down with the 7 high.
Yeah, you're not getting out of line either. Overlimping from the overlimping the button versus the cutoff. Like both of you are extremely out of line, and this is like this is what the result is.
I was just like, look, it's obvious that he's getting out of line. I'm gonna make it really obvious that I'm getting out of line. But hopefully, if I'm just like the first one to the trigger, he just won't be able to do anything with a big part of the range that's getting out of line.
No, you've both.
It sounds like you think that.
It
sounds like you think that.
You've basically both declared that you're getting out of line, and you're just going to get it in for like 120 bigs with like two terrible hands and live with the results. Like that's what I see.
He could fold.
Flop. There's no way. I don't think they're ever folding. I think you're just getting it in here with 7 high against a range that's like never folding. So yeah, you were wrong in your assessment of how I would feel about getting it in with 7 high.
Yes.
Flop is ace jack 3. Ace jack 3, club.
Yeah, I mean, rolling.
Yeah, well, you turn a flush, so I guess it doesn't really matter what they have, unless they have a higher flush. Yeah, they have an offsuit Broadway, king jack off, which again, like this is a hand that like totally fits the bill for what they did. And yeah, that's it. You win the pot with ran out flush.
Game.
You won your 60. You won your 40-60, like God intended, and we're going to end Tactical Tuesday on this note of perplexion. I guess is where I'm at. I got nothing left.
I did it in with 7 high.
I'm leaving perplexed.
All right. See you next week. Hopefully we'll be less perplexed next time.
I'm still going to be perplexed next week.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter. Join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter at CPG Podcast. The CPG Wolves.
The people in Wolves are highly intelligent and they're successful. And they're not just successful in poker, they're successful in other realms of life.
The coaching in general is very eye-opening. It doesn't take long for your biases and preconceived notions of how poker is played to be out in the open and under the reality of data.
Most of us share the same values and goals, so the support and drive to help each other succeed has just been invaluable.
The resources are just endless. I really feel that commitment every single day.
I couldn't even beat 50 NL online, and now I'm playing 500 NL.
Coach Jon is just an absolute machine. Coach Brad is pretty much the only person that I would blindly trust to guide me through my poker career.
The grass is greener on this side of the fence. And I think you just have a good time too.
Go to wolftryouts.com to apply.